Have you ever had that feeling, maybe when you're just thinking or looking around, that your thoughts, your inner world, it's somehow totally separate? Separate from your body, separate from, the physical world. Like science describes this cold, hard reality, but your feelings, your values,
Yeah.
that's something completely different.
Oh, absolutely. It's a really common feeling, isn't it? Like there's a mind inside a machine.
Exactly.
And, it's not just some personal quirk. It's actually a huge foundational idea in Western philosophy. It's what the philosopher Alfred North Whitehead called the Cartesian Bifurcation.
Right, the Cartesian bifurcation, and that's what we're diving into today. This idea, it mostly comes from René Descartes back in the 17th century, doesn't it?
That's the main source, yeah.
The idea that reality is fundamentally split into two totally different kinds of, stuff.
Two substances.
You've got mind thinking, consciousness doesn't take up space. He called it res cogitans, thinking substance. And then you've got matter, physical, extended in space, completely unthinking, mechanical, res extensa, extended substance.
That's the core of it. And the consequences of splitting reality like that are just massive. It leads straight to what people call the subject-object split.
Oh, okay. Explain that a bit more. The subject-object split.
Well, it means we tend to see the physical world, nature, everything out there as just this value-free machine, something you measure, analyze kind of coldly from the outside.
Right. Quantitative.
Exactly.
Right.
And then everything else, consciousness, feelings, purpose, value, subjectivity itself, that all gets pushed inside into this isolated, private, subjective mind.
It's like all the meaning and color gets drained out of the world and locked up in our heads.
You put your finger on it. That's the feeling it creates.
Which obviously leads to a massive problem right away. If mind and matter are completely different things, how do they interact?
The million-dollar question.
How does a non-physical thought, like deciding I'm going to raise my arm, actually make my physical arm move?
Or the other way around. How does something physical, like, say, stubbing your toe,
Ouch, yeah.
turn into that subjective, non-physical feeling of pain in your mind? It's not just some abstract puzzle for philosophers.
No, it really isn't.
This problem of interactions has shaped everything. How we think about science, the brain, ourselves, our place in the universe. It's huge.
Absolutely. It's a challenge thinkers have wrestled with for centuries. And that's our mission for this deep dive, isn't it?
It is. We're going on a journey through philosophy to see how different thinkers try to, heal this split.
To put mind and matter back together somehow, or at least understand the connection better.
Right. And you mentioned Whitehead and Wolfgang Smith, too. They're important 20th century critics.
Yeah.
But they're building on a really long tradition. Lots of people saw problems with this split way before them.
And what's really cool is how different the answers are. Some people say it's all one substance. Others totally change how we think about knowing things.
And some even say the split isn't the fundamental thing at all. It's just one way we look at things, and it hides a deeper unity.
Exactly. And these aren't just old arguments for academics. This stuff is relevant right now, isn't it?
Absolutely. It touches on consciousness, physics, even just your own daily experience of being alive. Think about it. What does it mean for you if mind and matter aren't really separate? What if they're intertwined, or maybe even two sides of the same coin? That's the kind of question we want you to think about as we go through these ideas.
Okay, so let's dive in. Descartes splits the world, mind and matter. The first group of thinkers we're looking at basically said, hang on, maybe it's all just one thing.
That's the idea. Monism.
Monism, meaning one.
Exactly. It was a direct challenge to Descartes' dualism. They just couldn't buy the two-substance idea, especially that interaction problem. It felt messy, illogical.
So they wanted something cleaner.
More elegant, more unified. They thought, let's find a single underlying substance that explains everything: mind, matter, the whole show.
Okay, so who's first up?
Well, the big name here is Baruch Spinoza, a really radical thinker in the 17th century.
Spinoza.
All right.
And his solution sounds intense. He says there's only one substance, and it's God, or nature, Deus of Natura. What does that actually mean? God is nature.
It's a huge idea because it just collapses distinctions people held sacred. For Spinoza, God isn't some separate creator outside the universe.
Like the traditional view.
Right. Instead, God is the universe, the single, infinite, self-caused substance that is reality itself. There's nothing outside of it.
Wow. Okay. So where do mind and matter fit in if everything is God or nature?
Good question. So for Spinoza, this one substance has infinite attributes, basically, infinite ways it expresses itself or can be understood. But And this is key for us. Human beings can only perceive two of these infinite attributes.
Only two. Which ones?
We perceive reality either as thought, which is, ideas, consciousness, the mental side of things.
Res cogitans, basically.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other attribute we perceive is extension, the physical, spatial, material side of things.
Res extensive.
Right. So we experience the world through these two lenses, thought and extension.
Okay, I see the two aspects, thought and extension. But how does that actually fix Descartes' problem? It still sounds like mind and matter are different categories. How is this not dualism?
But here's the crucial difference. For Spinoza, thought and extension are not separate substances fighting to interact. They are parallel attributes of the one underlying substance.
Parallel attributes, like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. That's a great analogy. Every single thing that happens, a rock falling, you having an idea, is simultaneously an event in extension and an event in thought.
Simultaneously.
Yes. They run perfectly in parallel because they aren't separate things. They're just different ways of looking at or expressing the same underlying reality, that single substance, fundamentally unified from the start.
Okay, I think I'm getting it. So if they're just two aspects of the same underlying event,
then the whole mind-body interaction problem just dissolves.
Right. There's no need for some weird bridge because they were never truly separate. No ghost pushing a machine.
Precisely. Your thoughts don't cause your actions in some mysterious way. They are the mental aspect of the same event whose physical aspect is the action. They are one and the same reality, viewed differently.
Let me try an analogy. Like music. You can hear it, that's subjective, mental. Or you could see the sound waves on a screen, that's physical, measurable extension.
Perfect. Same piece of music, same event, two different attributes or ways of perceiving it, hearing like thought and seeing the waves like extension. But they are inherently unified.
One doesn't cause the other. They just happen together as part of the same thing.
That's Spinoza's insight, the gap we feel between our inner life and the outer world. It's not a fundamental split in reality, just two perspectives on one unified whole. It suggests you're deeply connected to the universe, not separate from it.
That's a really powerful, almost spiritual way of looking at it. Okay, so Spinoza gives us one big, all-encompassing substance. But the next thinker, Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, he goes the other way entirely.
He really does. If Spinoza unified things into one big substance, Leibniz, who was actually a contemporary, sort of atomizes reality, but not into physical atoms.
Right. He talks about monads. You said they were like infinite, tiny, soul-like substances. That sounds even stranger.
It definitely sounds strange at first. But Leibniz was also reacting against Descartes, trying to solve those same problems. Monads are his fundamental units of reality.
They're not physical particles.
No. This is his radical move. He basically gets rid of inert, unthinking matter, Descartes' res extensa altogether.
Throws it out completely.
Pretty much. Instead, monads are what he called metaphysical points. They're centers of force, activity, and crucially perception.
Perception, even the tiniest ones.
Yes, to some degree. Each monad is like a unique, self-contained little universe perceiving or reflecting the entire cosmos from its own specific viewpoint. They are fundamentally active, not passive lumps of stuff.
So if everything is made of these perceiving, soul-like monads, how does that fix the mind-matter split? It sounds like he's just saying everything is mind, or mind-like.
That's exactly his solution. By making everything, right down to the very bottom, fundamentally perceptive and active, he dissolves the problem. Matter itself becomes something mental or proto-mental.
So the physical world we see, tables and chairs.
That's just a phenomenon. It's how these countless monads appear to each other, how their perceptions relate. It's not a separate kind of dead stuff.
Okay, so this is a form of panpsychism, the idea that mind or consciousness goes all the way down.
Classic panpsychism, yes. Mind, or at least some rudimentary form of perception and striving, is fundamental to reality for Leibniz. It's certainly an imaginative way to unify things.
But wait, if each monad is self-contained, like its own little universe, and they're not physical?
Yeah.
How do they interact? How does anything happen in a coordinated way? Spinoza had them as aspects of one thing, but Leibniz seems to have infinite separate things.
You've hit on the trickiest part, and Leibniz's answer is maybe his most famous and, debated idea. Pre-established harmony.
Pre-established harmony, what does that mean?
Since monads don't actually interact physically or causally in the normal sense.
Because they're not physical and they're self-contained.
Right. Their apparent coordination, the fact that the universe looks like it runs by cause and effect, like things influence each other, that's because God set them all up perfectly from the beginning.
Set them up. Like winding up clocks.
Exactly like winding up clocks. Imagine you have millions of perfect clocks, all wound up and started at the exact same instant. They would all keep perfect time together, chime on the hour together.
Even though they never touch or influence each other.
Precisely. They just follow their own internal programming, but in perfect, pre-established harmony. So, monads just unfold according to their own internal principle of perception. But God designed them so that their unfolding perceptions mirror each other and the universe perfectly, creating the appearance of interaction.
Wow. That's quite a system. A universe of perfectly synchronized, non-interacting, soul-like points. It's like a cosmic ballet choreographed by God.
It's a stunning image, isn't it? So both Spinoza and Leibniz tackled Descartes head-on by trying to unify the substance of reality. One substance versus one kind of substance.
But both involve some pretty complex, maybe counterintuitive ideas to make it work.
Definitely. They solved one problem, but maybe created others.
Okay, so the monists tried to fix the stuff of reality, but the next big wave, the German Idealists, they took a completely different tack, right? They focused more on knowledge, how we know things.
That's a great way to put it. Instead of just fiddling with the substance of reality, thinkers like Immanuel Kant looked at the relationship between the knower us, the subject, and the known, the world or object. They asked, what if the problem isn't just what reality is, but how our own minds structure our experience of reality?
So the mind isn't just a passive mirror reflecting the world anymore.
Not at all. They argue the mind is much more active in shaping what we perceive than Descartes ever imagined. The world isn't just out there waiting for us. Our minds are actively building our experience of it.
And the giant figure here is Immanuel Kant, famous for his Copernican revolution in philosophy.
Right.
Copernicus flipped the model of the solar system. Kant flipped the model of knowledge.
Exactly. Before Kant, the common idea was reality is out there, and our minds try to conform to it, like taking a picture. Kant reversed it. He said, no, reality as we experience it must conform to the structure of our minds.
Whoa. Okay, how does that work?
His key idea is the distinction between the phenomenal world and the noumenal world.
Phenomenal and noumenal. Okay.
The phenomenal world is the world as it appears to us. Trees, chairs, cause and effect, space, time, the world of our experience. But, Kant argued, this world isn't just passively received, it's actively structured by our minds.
Structured how?
By innate categories of understanding, things like space, time, causality. These aren't features of the world in itself. They are built into our cognitive software, you might say. They're the lenses through which we must experience anything at all.
So we're all born wearing these Kantian glasses, and we can't take them off. And these glasses automatically organize everything we see into, say, cause and effect or spatial relationships.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
We don't just get raw data. Our minds instantly process and shape it into an understandable experience according to these built-in rules. We can't help but experience the world in terms of space, time, and causality.
Okay, so that's the phenomenal world, the world shaped by our mental glasses. What's the noumenal world, then?
The noumenal world is the world as it is in itself, independent of our minds, without the glasses. But here's the kicker. For Kant, it's fundamentally unknowable.
Unknowable? Why?
Because any attempt to know it, to experience it, would instantly involve filtering it through those very mental categories, those glasses. We can only know things as they appear to us, structured by our minds, never as they are in themselves.
Wow. Okay, so how does this whole phenomenal-noumenal distinction and the mind structuring reality, how does that help with the Cartesian mind-matter split? It seems like it adds more divisions.
It's subtle. Kant doesn't just glue mind and matter back together like Spinoza. He sort of relocates the problem and contains it.
Contains it.
Yes. Think about the world that science studies, the objective, predictable, law-governed world of Newton, full of cause and effect. For Kant, that is the phenomenal world. It's objective, yes, but it's objective for us. It's the result of our shared human mental structure.
So the objective world of science isn't absolutely objective. It's objective relative to how humans think.
Precisely. That was revolutionary. Science isn't giving us a picture of ultimate reality, the noumenal world. It's giving us a map of the phenomenal world, the world structured by our minds.
Which means science has limits. It can't claim to know everything about ultimate reality.
Exactly. And that limitation is crucial for Kant. It prevents science from explaining away everything, from becoming this totalizing worldview. It leaves room, conceptually, for things that don't fit the scientific mechanical picture, like human freedom, morality, beauty, even God. These might relate to the noumenal realm, which science can't penetrate.
So the bifurcation that science seems to create, the value-free, quantitative world versus our inner life, that split is sort of confined to the phenomenal realm. It doesn't represent the ultimate truth.
Right. Science's view is valid within the phenomenal realm, but it loses its claim to be the only or absolute reality. Kant creates a more balanced picture, preserving both science and human values, but limiting science's scope.
The glasses analogy really helps here. We all wear the same basic glasses, our shared cognitive structure, so the world looks objective and lawful to us, phenomenal world. But what's really out there without the glasses, noumenal world, we can't directly see. Science studies the world through the glasses.
That's it. It's a profound shift. It forces us to realize that understanding the world also means understanding the tools, our own minds, that we use to understand it.
Okay, so Kant reframes the whole subject-object thing through the lens of knowledge. Then, moving into the 20th century, we get a whole new movement, phenomenology.
Yeah.
And their approach seems to be, let's just get back to basics, back to actual lived experience before all the theories.
That's the heart of it. Phenomenology is almost entirely about overcoming the Cartesian split. But they do it by trying to describe experience exactly as we live it before we impose the subject-object grid onto it.
Like pressing pause on the abstractions.
Exactly. It's a call to return to the richness, the immediacy, the quality of just being in the world day to day. They felt that richness got lost in the scientific drive for objectivity, and even in traditional philosophy.
And the founder here is Edmund Husserl. He talked about a crisis of the European sciences. What was this crisis, and what's this life world he mentioned?
Husserl saw a big problem brewing. Science was incredibly successful, right? But he felt it had, in its push for math and objectivity, kind of forgotten where it came from.
Forgotten its origins.
Yeah. His big idea was the life world, Lebenswelt. That's our immediate, everyday, pre-scientific world. The world that's just full of qualities, meanings, and tensions. The world we navigate, feel, and live in before we start measuring it or applying theories.
So like the smell of rain, the feeling of connection with a friend, the frustration of a broken tool, that world, not just the physics and chemistry behind it.
Precisely. That's the life world. And for Husserl, the objective mathematical world of science is a secondary construction. It's an abstraction, a very useful one, but it's built on top of the life world.
Okay, so where's the crisis?
The crisis happens when science forgets it's an abstraction and starts thinking its mathematical model is the real world, the only reality.
Mistaking the map for the territory.
Exactly. And when it does that, it pushes all that rich, qualitative, meaningful stuff from the life world into a merely subjective box. And boom, you're right back to the Cartesian split.
So for Husserl, the bifurcation isn't fundamental. It's an error that happens when science overreaches or forgets its roots in our lived experience.
That's it. His solution. Phenomenology. Rigorously describe the life world, return our focus there. And when you do that, you rediscover that subject and object, mind and world aren't separate things to begin with. They are always already tangled up.
Consciousness is always consciousness of something, and the world is always the world as experienced.
You got it. They're originally and inseparably intertwined. The split is a later theoretical overlay. Husserl wants to ground knowledge back in that primary lived unity.
It's like the difference between actually walking in a park, feeling the sun, hearing the birds, that whole experience.
It's life world experience.
Versus analyzing the physics of sunlight or the acoustics of birdsong. Both valid, but one is the ground floor of our experience.
Beautifully put. He's not anti-science. He just wants science to remember its place, its foundation in our lived reality.
Okay. Now, Husserl's student, Martin Heidegger, took these ideas even further, right? With his concept of Dasein, or being in the world.
He did. Heidegger arguably went deeper in dissolving the subject-object structure.
He seems to say we aren't just minds looking at a world, we are our being in the world. Our existence is that connection.
That's the core of Dasein, literally being there. For Heidegger, our fundamental way of existing isn't as a detached mind, a subject peering out of a separate world of objects. No. Our existence is being in the world. It's a single, unified phenomenon.
We were all already thrown into a world, engaged with it, concerned about it.
Always. We don't start as isolated minds and then try to build bridges to the world. We start in the world, involved, situated. That's our primary state.
So the whole idea of the detached observer, the Cartesian subject, that's not fundamental for Heidegger. It's something secondary.
Exactly. He thought Descartes basically put the cart before the horse. The subject-object split, the stance of the detached scientific observer, looking at things as mere present-at-hand objects. That's a specific, derived way we can relate to the world.
Something we do, not what we are.
Right. But it covers over our more primary unified way of being, which is engaged, practical involvement, what he called dealing with things as ready to hand. The Cartesian split obscures this fundamental unity of dessein.
Okay, so when I'm hammering a nail, I'm not thinking I'm a subject perceiving an object called a hammer. I'm just hammering.
Exactly. The hammer, your hand, the nail, your goal. It's all one fluid activity. The hammer is ready to hand, part of the flow.
It's only when the hammer breaks or I stop to just stare at it that it becomes an object separate from me, the subject.
That's precisely Heidegger's point. The subject-object distinction emerges when our smooth, engaged activity breaks down or when we adopt a theoretical stance.
Yeah.
But our primary way of being is unified engagement.
That feels much closer to actual experience. Okay, this leads perfectly to Maurice Merleau-Ponty. He really zeroes in on the body, doesn't he? Challenging that ghost in the machine.
He absolutely does. Merleau-Ponty's work is a sustained meditation on the body as the key to overcoming the split.
He said we're not a mind that has a body, but an embodied consciousness. How does the body itself help us escape Descartes' dualism?
His central idea is the body subject. For Merleau-Ponty, the body isn't just a thing, an object, or a container for the mind. It's our fundamental way of being in the world, our primary means of perceiving and interacting.
So perception isn't just mental, it's bodily.
Deeply bodily. Perception is an active, physical engagement. Our body moves, touches, sees, orients itself. It's constantly shaping our perceptual field. It's not just a passive receiver, it's our active opening onto the world.
So the body isn't just an object out there like other objects?
No, and it's not pure subject either. It's this fascinating middle ground. Merleau-Ponty called it ambiguous. It's the place where mind and world meet and are totally inseparable.
The lived body, not the anatomical body.
Exactly. The body as we experience it from the inside, as our way of being involved. By focusing on this lived body, he dissolves that sharp Cartesian line between res cogitans, thinking, and res extension. Our very existence is this intertwining of mind and world through the body.
The world appears to us because we are embodied.
Precisely. Our sense of self isn't trapped behind our eyes. It extends out into the world through our bodily engagement.
Thinking about a dancer again, that really clicks. Is their mind separate from the dance? Is the body just a tool? No way.
It's embodied consciousness in action. Mind, body, music, space. It's one unified flow. The Cartesian model just falls apart trying to describe that.
It really does. Okay, so we've had the monists, the idealists, the phenomenologists, huge movements. But there are other important voices tackling this too, from different angles.
Oh, yes. The critique of the bifurcation wasn't limited to those schools. It shows how deeply problematic people found this split, leading to diverse efforts to fix it.
Let's touch on a couple. What about the American pragmatist John Dewey? He talked about the spectator theory of knowledge. What was that, and why did he dislike it?
Dewey saw the spectator theory, the idea that knowing is just passively observing reality from a distance, as directly linked to Cartesian dualism.
Like the mind just sits back and watches.
Exactly. And for Dewey, that was completely wrong. He argued that knowing isn't passive observation. It's an active, participatory process. We are organisms interacting with, adapting to, and changing our environment.
So knowing is something we do, not something we just receive.
Precisely. We don't just look at the world. We poke it, prod it, experiment with it, solve problems within it. Knowledge arises from that active engagement.
Which naturally dissolves the subject-object barrier then.
It has to. There's no detached mind contemplating a separate world. There's just an active organism in constant transaction with its world. Knowledge emerges from that interplay. It's not mind versus matter, but an integrated being navigating reality through purposeful action.
Like learning the puzzle by actually doing it, not just staring at the pieces.
Perfect analogy. Thinking and doing are interwoven for Dewey. Our ideas are tools for action, and our actions shape our ideas. It's a unified loop.
Very different feel. Okay, and one more. Gilbert Ryle, his famous phrase, the ghost in the machine. That really paints a picture.
It does. Ryle, writing in the mid-20th century in his book, The Concept of Mind, used that phrase to ridicule Cartesian dualism. His argument was that it makes a fundamental error in thinking.
An error? What kind?
He called it a category mistake.
A category mistake.
Yeah. It's when you treat something as belonging to one logical type or category when it actually belongs to another. His famous example is the university visitor.
Right, the person who sees all the colleges, libraries, fields, and then asks, but where is the university?
Exactly. They're mistakenly putting the university, which is an organization, a system, into the category of physical building, alongside the library or the dorm.
Okay, I get the mistake. How does that apply to the mind-body problem and the ghost in the machine?
Ryle argued Descartes made the same kind of mistake with the mind. He treated mind as if it were a non-physical thing, a substance that performs actions like thinking or willing, separate from the physical body, the machine.
Like a hidden operator.
Yes. For Ryle, this is wrong. When we use mental words like intelligent, thoughtful, determined, conscious, we're not actually referring to some secret, invisible mind thing inside the person that causes these qualities.
So what are we referring to then?
We're describing how the person behaves, their actions, their tendencies, their disposition. Saying someone is intelligent isn't pointing to an inner intelligence ghost. It's describing the intelligent way they act, solve problems, talk, and so on.
It's about the observable performance, not a hidden entity.
That's the core of it. We do smart things. We don't have a hidden smart thing inside doing them for us. The ghost is a myth created by misinterpreting our language about minds and mental states. Mind isn't a thing. It's a way of behaving, a set of capacities and dispositions embodied in our actions.
Like team spirit. It's not a thing inside someone, it's how they play, how they interact with the team.
Perfect analogy again. Ryle believed if we just analyzed our language carefully, the philosophical problem of the ghost in the machine would simply dissolve. It was a linguistic confusion, not a metaphysical reality.
Wow. That's a very different way to cut the Gordian knot. Okay, what a journey. We've really seen how this Cartesian split, mind versus matter, has been this central puzzle, this driving force in philosophy for centuries.
Absolutely. It wasn't just Descartes. It set an agenda, a problem that generations of thinkers felt compelled to address. And the sheer variety of solutions is just stunning.
We saw the monists, like Spinoza, trying to reunify everything into one substance, saying mind and matter are just two aspects of God or nature.
And Leibniz, also a monist in a way, but saying everything is made of mind-like monads, getting rid of inert matter altogether.
Then Kant, shifting the whole game by looking at how our minds structure experience, confining the scientific bifurcated view to the phenomenal world and making space for other things.
Followed by the phenomenologists Husserl, Heidegger, Merleau-Ponty, urging a return to lived embodied experience, arguing that mind and world are already unified in our being in the world and through our body subject.
And then others like Dewey, emphasizing active knowing through interaction, not passive spectating.
And Ryle, dissolving the problem by showing it might be a category mistake, a confusion embedded in our language about minds.
It's an incredible range of ideas, all pushing back against that simple, clean split between our inner life and the outer world.
And these aren't just historical footnotes. These debates echo right through to today in neuroscience, trying to understand consciousness, in AI asking about machine minds, and how we fundamentally conceive of ourselves.
So it really makes you question that standard, objective, scientific view as being the only way to see things.
Exactly. It's powerful, it's useful, but maybe it's not the whole story, maybe not even the ground floor when we think about our actual lived reality.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, listening. What does it really mean for how you see the world, how you see yourself, if that sharp line between mind and matter isn't as real or absolute as we often assume?
Yeah. What if it's more like a useful distinction we make, rather than a fundamental truth of existence? How might thinking about your own being in the world, your inescapable connection to everything around you, through your actions, your perceptions, your body, how might that change how you go about your day?
Or how you think about science or art or relationships?
It's a challenge, really. A challenge to rethink what's real and how deeply you are woven into the fabric of that reality. Perhaps the split isn't out there, but more in how we've learned to think. Something to ponder.